René Breit.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our noon edition of Fresh from the Studio, our program where women in their work, artists share what they're working on in their studios and upcoming projects with everyone. Today's afternoon program will feature Amanda Fay, Jennie Tudor Gray, and Ling Ling Ku. The way it works, each artist will present for 10 minutes. At the end of the third presentation, we'll open it up to questions for all of the artists, and then we'll move into breakout rooms where you can go into a room with an individual artist and have a more casual conversation. The breakout rooms will be about 10 minutes, and then we'll wrap up and we'll share upcoming events, as well as we hope you'll share your upcoming events with us. So if we're ready to get started, we're going to start with Amanda Fay.
Hey guys, thank you for joining today. I'm going to share a PowerPoint presentation with you. And I'm just going to run through pretty quick. This is a series that I worked on with painted quilts. I'm kind of exploring, my background's in textile design. I have a BFA from Savannah College of Art and Design. I've also studied at MICA, Haystack, Mountain School of Crafts, and the Corcoran Gallery in DC. I'm using textile prints and processes and their historical context to bring meaning to my abstract works. The series is called Indivisible. It's about American identity and exploring what that is. This was completed in 2019, just a display of how it was hung with a traditional quilt hanger sort of style. This collection is called Resting Place. This was a show that my partner and I put on last fall in our gallery, which we no longer have. It's called 1815 Gallery, exploring the value of labor and socio-economic disparity through textile, found art, and mixed media. And I probably can't read this whole thing. This exhibition calls to attention the struggles involved in the pursuit of the American dream. The works featured act both as protest and homage to the trials and tribulations faced by the working class and the socio-political circumstances that act as obstacles towards upward mobility, calling into question what defines the American dream and is it attainable. These pieces are labor studies. They involve lots of layering, distressing, and machine embroidery to mimic boro and shishiko stitching techniques, which are traditional Japanese stitching techniques used by the peasant class. This piece is on construction netting, and it's kind of like the repetition of prayer every day that faithful hard work pays off in America. And this one is a crucifix with cross knots and pieces of construction debris. Here are some photos from the gallery. This project is called In Love and Tech. It was for In Love and Tech show. This is a teenage daydream ISIS recruitment memes. And I was actually invited into a private group on Facebook that I think was recruitment for women to join ISIS. So I've taken screenshots of these images and decorated them as though it was like a sketchbook or notebook of a teenager, kind of fantasizing about something really dangerous and being kind of tricked and trapped into that. This was a cool exhibition because it was actually like augmented reality, where you could use Google Translate and actually translate what the memes say. This is what I'm currently working on. This is a social justice project. I'm creating jewelry, but I'm donating 10% of the proceeds to the ACLU, and everything's all chains. And so I've got this up and running, and I will be vending this Sunday at the Sagebrush Treasure Market with these goods. And I've got a couple different collections, lots of colors. And then I have an upcoming show on July the 10th for Austin Arts Collective Takeover of the Tin Whistle Gallery. And I'll be showing with Thomas Fierro, Robert Page, Richard Ricardo Achebe, and myself. And that's my presentation.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you.
Yeah. Next up is Jennie Tudor Gray.
Hey, everybody. Allie's going to help out technically there. So my name's Jennie Tudor Gray. I've lived in Austin since the 80s. I wear many hats and they're all intertwined. So I'm an artist, activist, as well as an art and yoga instructor. If you want to go to the next slide, just short bio about me. You can always go to my website or social media for more information. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Studio Art, as well as an all-level teaching certification, which means I'm certified to teach art early childhood through senior year, my own career, gosh, over 20 years. And the wonderful part about my the BFA program that Texas State has, if you're pursuing art education, is you have to take studios in every single genre. So it's not just your basic drawing, life drawing, painting, color theory, and design. We also had to take fibers, printmaking, sculpture, metals, ceramics, watercolor, probably missing more, which works great for me because I like using all of them. I'm also a social justice activist and advocate, and I love and strongly believe in using the creative arts as a method of social change. I worked for Creative Action right out of graduating college and began working in public schools then, and then eventually I taught for 5 years at Title I public schools, which are high poverty. So the arts and after school programming really does help save lives. I most recently taught at my alma mater at St. Stephen's Episcopal School. And along the way, I've also become a certified yoga instructor. Next slide. So the one on the left was the image that was featured in the promo. So I created these works this summer that during the last administration, the summer that the intensified and intensely cruel because it was pre-existing, but it became a lot worse with the family separations. And, in trying to find out, okay, well, what is in my sphere of influence that I do have power over? I've already voted. I already donate. For me, my go-to is, of course, art. So the one on the left is the one I did first. And the second one is on the other side. I wanted to represent both parent units. And if you go to the next slide, I was really inspired by Amplifier Art, and they're coming up. So they're real famous for doing the Women's March posters, and they're an art machine for social change. So all their images are open source, free to download, print, distribute. And so I have a whole series of social justice designs for that too. So this one, it had a great story. I created the images, I posted them on all the families belong together Facebook events across America, and people reached out and they sent pictures. So some of these are from Brownsville, and some are here. I was a crowd marshal during that protest and rally, and it was great. They even saw each other in the crowd because they recognized. On the left-hand side, one of the people who messaged me, she said, "Hey, I can't really afford to print it, but I have my own supplies. Is it okay if I make my own? And of course, credit you." And I'm like, that's even more awesome. So we met, her name's Zoe, and we're now good friends. So you never know where an image will go that you create. All right, next one. Yeah, so here are the Women's March posters. They have current campaigns going on, call for entries. Next slide. And here are some of my social justice designed posters. They're free to download and print. Next one. All right. So incorporating my social justice activism, my art background, as well as an educator. It just kind of, my classroom became an impromptu screen printing, poster design place for the March for Our Lives rally. I'm super proud of my students. They were so brave. Like, they got there and I met them and they like marched all the way up to the front and were very actively engaged in it. And next slide. One of my own personal sheroes is Dolores Huerta. And I think today Cesar Chavez Day. I hope that she has her own day too. But anyhow, a student came in earlier in that school year and said, Miss Gray, I just watched this awesome documentary about Dolores Huerta. Could I do an artwork based on her? I said, sure. So she chose to copy that really famous painting. Jump ahead for a few months later, a friend posted, Dolores Huerta is in Georgetown giving a speech. So I emailed the daughter, I emailed the student, of course, and her family, we met up. So, you know, life goal check. I got to meet Ms. Huerta, and even better, you know, to have a student be there to meet her and autograph her work. Next one. And here's some, we used all recycled materials. You know, the art room usually has a whole bunch of stuff on it. So one of the students from my school was the founding member and helped organize the March for Our Lives. I'm sorry, the climate strike. Next one. Let's see. Yeah, I'm a printmaker as well. I spent a long time using altered books and things. So the papers are from a vintage copy of The Handmaid's Tale. And I wanted to address issues of the very important role of intersectionality within feminism. Next one. Here's my studio, which is also my home. And that's when it looks all nice and neat for East Austin Studio Tour. Next one. Here's just some samples and some snapshots. I'm going to wrap up the talking part because I'd love to do a little demo if that's okay. So let me switch screen here if I can. All right, can y'all see? All right, so I love working in alcohol inks. There's a special kind of paper that's actually made out of plastic, so it doesn't absorb like it. So sometimes I'll just start by putting some rubbing alcohol because it is what the science of it's really cool. And then what's great about alcohol inks is they're super, super vivid colors. And after many years of making these rigid, intricately controlled, altered book collages, I found, you know, this is a very liberating media. So I offer workshops, I offer private lessons. Everything on my website right now is 25% off. And then you can use like heat guns and things to blow it around, and then you never know exactly how it might dry, which is pretty fun. And yeah, back here is my house and some of my artwork you'll see. And that's about it. I look forward to hopefully getting some questions or catching up. I saw some of my friends on here. And thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you. And thanks for the demo. And our next artist is Ling-lin Ku.
Okay.
Can you see it okay? It's just like...
Yes.
We sure do. Okay, cool. Hi everyone, my name is Ling-lin Ku. I'm a multimedia sculptor. I make sculpture, installation, and three-dimensional objects. I was born and grew up in Taiwan, and I came to the States for my my undergrad and grad school. I went to Virginia Commonwealth University for my BFA, where I got my BFA for sculpture and extended media. And then I went to grad school almost right away because of my student visa at that time. So that's why I came to Texas in the first place. I came to UT Austin for my MFA under recruitment fellowship. And by the time I graduated, both my partner and I got a job in Houston. So that just naturally become our next move. So until now, we're both still living and working in Houston, Texas. In terms of my process and work, since grad school, I started to full-on explore digital fabrication and technology related to topics. So although that to me, I don't have a hierarchy in my mind, that I value the hands-on process and digital fabrication equally in my process. I like using my hands to engage with the material, but I also like the endless possibilities in the weightless digital world. So my work usually combines both, and also kind of going back and forth between the physical and the virtual. So also I responding to things that's around me, things I see every day usually end up in like part of my work. No matter where I live or things I pass by every day, I would just play with that. So here's the example on my sculpture work. It's called Trypophobia. That is, I draw the inspiration from things in the kitchen, particularly a bag holder display. You know, the bag holder usually have holes that you can pull out the bags, or some kind of narrow opening that you can store more bags inside. So I made a Swiss cheese-like bag holder here with a lot of holes and a crack in the middle. And because it's cracked, so I put a Band-Aid in between to heal it. And on the other side of the shelf, I put a block of butter. And then the other side of the shelf is a melted cheese drill with a long, stretchy earwax bit. And trypophobia is a fear for holes. So there's a lot of holes in this piece, like butt holes, cheese holes, ear holes, a lot of holes. Another piece I want to show is called Skeletal Street Walking. That is a piece that reflects my memory when I live in Brooklyn, short period of time. Every day when I walk to the studio, I would pass the neighborhood that has that kind of old buildings that was that kind of security metal bar for the windows or the AC unit. And I really like it, so that make a piece that reflect on that time, and also create a kind of character that's on the top is kind of like a body, like a bra, and with long, stretchy, skinny legs that have a tiny underwear pulled towards the ground, so it becomes like a leg. And also, it was a rainy day scene, so I make a chain Q-tips that crawling into the sewer, the drain, and dangling next to the ear. So, and because it's a rainy day, there's a slippery accident happen when I was waiting for the traffic light, also while I ate a lollipop. So that's something that I create a work that project my imaginations with things I see, and also using digital fabrication. Here is the rendering image that I scan some parts and also sketch using the 3D software and before the work are made. So those are the other piece. The reason I show the image, the digital sketch is because that affect me a lot on a lot of ways, and also the perspective. And here is a project that dedicated to explore in between the digital and the physical world. The title is a figure called Living. Which is a large installation work that has open system that the viewers can enter and exit on any point of this piece and freely explore. And almost all the objects are made in mismatched scales, so that looks like a zoom in and zoom out perspective that you see in the digital space. And I also print the material image directly onto the object. For example, an image of the brick wall printed directly onto the hallway structure. That is mimicking the texture mapping, which is virtually wrapping around a 2D image around the 3D objects that used a lot in video games or 3D animation. So that way I create a kind of strange uncanniness that between the virtual and the physical, and between the 3D and the 2D screen. I also use a lot of gray in this work, is because it's reflect the urban environment, but also the default gray in the digital space. I also used it incorporate other digital features, which is glitch here. Glitch is some kind of sudden malfunction in the digital space that's short-lived and unexplainable. Usually it's like repetitive or blown out color or distorted form. To me, it's in this work, this is a hint of this is a digital dreamland, that the reality is somewhere else. This is another digital feature that is pixelated quote that I made pen on top of the feet of missing toe. So to me, this installation is like a hide and seek game or some kind of treasure hunt or a fetishized crime scene, that artist is the criminal and then want to hide the evidence, but also want people to find those things. So it's a desire to hide what those will be found. So this is my work. So for now, you probably notice that my studio incorporate a lot of material and require a lot of facility as well. So I work in a makerspace where my studio located as well. So that in that case, I have access to different facilities and make different type of work. Although unfortunately, we just moving to a different location, different building. So I'm in between studio right now, and because it's a huge process, so it's being on pause for a while in terms of the facility. So I'm just thinking how can I make my time more productive. So I'm taking some classes in LaSalle School of Art in Museum of Fine Arts Houston, which is a small metal work, which it's manageable size, and also I like to incorporate that technique in the next project, which will involve in metal work, using like instruments, like form of the parts. So I set up the studio actually right here behind me. This is my dedicated clean edge room. So this is my workbench. You can see that. So this is like the tools and material I'm using, and there's some work I've been doing so far. Those are either for fun or for assignments or parts for the different sculpture projects. So I guess I'm just gonna stand here. I don't know how much time I already used.
Thanks so much. We're at time.
Oh, great.
Perfect.
Well, let me just share. Wait, did I share? Sorry.
We have several comments. Love your visual puns and love your sense of humor and whimsy. If anyone has any questions for our three artists, you can chat them into the chat, or you can ask them before we move into breakout rooms.
I'll ask a question of Ling Ling. Who are your greatest influences?
My influences, there are a lot influences. I like traveling. Before the COVID, I think I traveled extensively. Now it's I guess everybody's life is different now. Same as I do miss traveling. A lot of inspiration. I guess there's not real like stimulating that kind of inspiration. I think it's more like a lot of ideas that come actually out of boredom. I think when I'm bored, my mind just go like autopilot and then kind of start to free associate and also make things weirder and weirder. So I guess that's kind of my inspiration, or a zone of inspiration.
Are you familiar with sorry guys, Sterile? Because your last piece with the digital kind of pixel thing kind of reminded me of some of her work, and I think she's amazing.
I know her work. I have a work that's kind of inspired by her early documentation called Lovely Andrea, which is I didn't show in this presentation. But that was a kind of fun work. That's because the Lovely Andrea is about the sex pleasure in a repressed society, which is like in Japan. It's about like Japanese bondage. So I kind of tied my sculpture kind of that way. That's like the starting point, and that become kind of different. It's more about like domestic relationship in the end, but that's something I guess is influenced by her, but not much about the technology part, because I think a lot of artists now like exploring the technology in really different ways. So I'm not particularly looking at her work.
Cool. Will you drop a link to your website too?
Yeah, sure. That's right.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can find that piece on the website.
Cool, I want to check it out.
Awesome.
All right. Oh,
Oh yeah, it's so awesome just to hear from all of y'all's very diverse practices, and yeah, exciting to kind of cover so much ground in one short period of time. For this section of kind of the hangout, we're going to open up some breakout rooms.